First of all, if I may turn to current political developments and the European elections we've just seen and the fallout which has been quite dramatic from those elections, I think everybody here would be very interested to hear your assessment of where this leaves Europe in particular, and not least the situation in France and the distribution of the important European jobs that also happens as a following on from those elections. If I could start with you, Prime Minister Mitsotakis.
Well, first of all, it clearly pays off to systematically show up at your conferences, because then I hope that was not the primary reason for voting as Country of the Year, but thank you regardless for that great honor. Now, turning to the European elections, let me first of all point out that when you look at the mathematics of the European Parliament, it is very clear that the European political center, as it is represented by the three main political families, the European People Party, the European Socialists and the European Liberals, have a comfortable majority in the European Parliament, and it is actually the only working majority, which was also the reason why the discussions around the main jobs essentially centered around the three political groups. I think that the hard right or the far right probably did slightly worse than many people expected before the elections. However, they clearly made their presence felt in France and in Germany. And of course, this is a development that has obvious consequences for both these countries. The most dramatic ones are taking place in France as we speak, because the outcome actually triggered a parliamentary election. And it is indeed interesting to point out that these days there is concern about the fiscal position and the borrowing costs of France, whereas Greece, which was the poster child for the fiscal problems of the European Union, seems to be doing rather well and is a pillar of fiscal stability. So I think that it is very important to preserve that working majority and to ensure that the new Commission President gets to the 361 vote threshold in the European Parliament, and my expectation is that this will actually happen. And then for Europe to get down to work, to deliver on essentially the pillars of a new European policy that will look at issues around competitiveness. And I would like to congratulate Enrico on his truly excellent report. He put a lot of effort and energy into writing this text, and it was clearly for him not just a procedural obligation, and there are many interesting thoughts and ideas which I'm sure we'll have a chance to discuss coming out of this report. But how do we actually make the single market work in those sectors where we clearly have challenges? Are there new freedoms that we need to enshrine in our collective European logic? All these are important questions which also to a certain extent answer to the grievances that Europeans feel. And of course then we need to look at issues such as defense, migration. These are topics which will feature prominently in the next European cycle. But I think it is important to get the top jobs out of the way relatively quickly, because there was a lot of drama last time. And I think that the more predictability and speed we have in sorting out, the remaining, confirming Ursula von der Leyen and then, confirming the rest of the Commission, the better it will be for Europe.
Can I ask you, I want to come to you, Enrico, in a moment, but can I ask you for a brief reflection on the results here in Greece of the European elections and what conclusions you drew from that?
Look, the one conclusion is that new democracy remains the one dominant political force in Greece. The second or the third party, if you add up their percentages, they're under the percentage that we got. Clearly, we had set a target at the election result of the 2019 election. We did not get to 33%. And I think there are various reasons for that, which I take very, very seriously. It's not just, a fatigue with consecutive elections. I'm sure that played a part. We had very high levels of abstention, but I'm sure there were also citizens that decided to use the European elections to send us a message concerned with the cost of living. I think this was a very, very important priority that is very, high upon the agenda of most people in the country. But at the same time, the European elections did not change the fundamental political dynamics. We had a double national election in 2023. We managed to get to 41%. We managed to demonstrate that you can actually have a center-right party that has a very broad appeal and can bring together people who identify as right-wing, but also people who identify as progressive centrists. And I think this has been something which has proven rather elusive for many other European, traditional, large European parties. And of course, that victory was reflected in a strong parliamentary majority. We have a mandate for 4 years to deliver upon complicated reforms. If the first 4 years were about stabilizing the country, and I think we've succeeded in that, the next 4 years is really about catching up with Europe and about making sure that we don't just rest on our laurels, but that we really push an aggressive convergence agenda with Europe. We have 3 years remaining in our term. There will be no early elections. I'm adamant about that. Elections will take place in 2027. I was equally adamant during my first term. Many questioned my commitment to a stable electoral cycle. They were wrong. They will be wrong again. We will have an election in 2027, and we judge in our entirety on what we have delivered in our second term.
You've clearly been keen to listen to the message from voters. Does the message lead you to think that reforms should be speeded up, slowed down, as before? Is there any message there?
I'm a committed reformist, and even if reforms sometimes, ruffle feathers, that is the nature of the reform agenda. But we received a mandate for these reforms. For example, if we go, after tax evasion, as we committed to do in our electoral manifesto, I'm sure some people may be disappointed with that, but at the end of the day, everybody recognizes that it is the right thing to do. So for me, the message is very clear: focus on deliverable results. We want you to address issues of cost of living. This actually relates to the functioning of the single market, at least in one dimension, and that is the prices that we pay for products produced by multinational companies. When we had our discussions with Enrico, it was an issue I pointed out. We cannot have the same identical products being sold at significantly different prices in a single market. This is not acceptable, but people want better healthcare. And at the end of the day, the focus needs to be on disposable income, on wage convergence. This is our main commitment, and this doesn't happen miraculously or by government decree. You need investment, you need growth, you need to bring down unemployment. All the figures are trending in the right direction. The economy is growing at a significantly faster pace than the rest of the Eurozone. The country is an attractive investment destination. We have created almost 400,000 new jobs over the past 5 years. And if we continue to deliver on these reforms, we will achieve the targets that we set by 2027 in terms of a significant improvement in disposable income. So I think the message was just get down to work and do what you told us you would do, because that was the reason we were voted back into office in the first place.